Pat Mayo Hour.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour, back for the new year with some UFC DraftKings picks. This time for UFC Hooked on Phoenix. Cody Saftic, back. I'm in that Toutmaster pool this year.
Yeah, good.
Yes,
Good to hear.
someone emailed me and I was drinking. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll definitely win. I'm like, I'm going to come dead last. This is terrible. It's terrible news for me.
I'll help you out, but last week...
You're in the pool. You can't help me out.
Yeah, of course I can, because I have strongly considered fielding two teams. I didn't know if that was legal or what were the rules on that. So I was like, I'll just get someone from the office to put in a team and I'll just make the picks. And on those certain events where it's like, that's a 50-50, I'll just split
I'm
them
not doing
between the
that.
two.
I don't want to split with you. I want all the monies for myself.
Well, then you can take all the defeat on your own.
I might go splitsies with Custy Sean McCormick.
Well, then you are definitely destined for failure.
Oh, really?
Well, because we actually a couple times, Sean would come on Bookie Beatdown to fill in for Ken Carter when we were doing the three-man panel.
You just losers? Picking
No,
losers?
he said, I don't want to do this upcoming card. I said, why not? He said, too many Asian fighters I've never heard of. Well, then you are not going to do good in Toutmaster.
In fairness, I don't know who any of these people are.
You can't pronounce the names either. But, I feel like through the partnership where we could have done splitsies.
Yeah, but now I just get to talk to you on the show. I can hear who you're leaning towards.
Yes, that's
and
true.
get your biases out of it and just take the opposite of those fights, and I feel like I'll be good to go.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say as a discretion here, what I would have done is one of these teams would have Yair Rodriguez. He's the favorite. He's a near 5-1 guy. One of these teams would have BJ Penn.
Why?
Because
so I can lose?
No, because the amount of payoff you'd be getting out of him. Listen, is he going to lose? Sure. But if you're going to get 3.5 points out of him on the plus 350.
Is that how it works?
Yes.
So if you take a minus fighter, is it just 1 point?
Just one single point.
So if you pick an underdog, you get, what if it's plus 160? You get 1.6 points?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. So someone like BJ Penn, you might think to yourself, you know what, I kind of think he's going to lose. But if you were to put the value at the fight, I don't got it at 5-1. I think it's closer than that, surely. So why not take that bid on someone like BJ Penn? And in the worst case scenario is you lose. You give up one single point.
Yeah, but you give up that one single point to everyone in the field. So
everyone in the field
it's really
who
like
took,
losing 2 points.
Everyone in the field who took Yair Rodriguez, sure, yeah.
But isn't he a lock to win? Isn't BJ Penn way past his prime at this point?
Yeah, but I mean, let's say I took this guy is one of the greatest ever, and he's on the back nine of his career. This other guy, he's never even achieved any greatness. He's never done anything noteworthy. If he was to retire right now, no one would ever remember Yair Rodriguez. He hasn't done anything. He's on his way to doing great things. He's certainly a bright prospect in the division. He certainly has a bright future with the organization, and winning over BJ Penn would be that marquee victory that kind of propels you forward in your own career. But it's not a gimme fight by no stretch of the imagination. And if you're BJ Penn, you're a guy that's technically more skilled in all areas. I mean, where does Yair Rodriguez beat BJ Penn? Standing on the ground? I don't know. We'll have to see on Sunday, obviously. But I think for 5-1, it's just a little crazy to me.
When was the last time BJ Penn fought?
So last time he fought, he took on, and Paul Shaughnessy was there live, but he took on Frankie Edgar. It was a couple years back, and it was his 145-pound debut. So BJ Penn's a guy that is a career 155-pounder. He won a world title at 155 pounds. He decides, I could probably win the world title at 170. So he goes up to 170, beats Matt Hughes, wins the world title. He's the first ever guy to win two world titles in two different weight classes. Him and Randy Couture become, at the time anyways, the only two guys to ever do it.
Now Connor's done it?
And now Connor's done it as well. However, now BJ Penn goes, okay, you know what? I'd like to win at 185. The UFC's like, this guy's crazy. They don't cut him. He asks for a substantial amount of money. They don't end up giving that money to him. He ends up leaving, going and fighting in Hawaii, going and fighting in Japan, moves around a little bit. He ends up fighting as high as 189 pounds, where he fought Lyoto Machida, who then went on to win the UFC title later in his own career, and unfortunately loses a really close decision, actually, to Lyoto Machida. But it shows that BJ Penn will fight any man on the planet. It does not matter. He doesn't care if you're 155 or 170 or 185 or a heavyweight, he would fight you. Now fast forward to the guy's career, and he's 36 years old. He's not fighting guys that big anymore. And he really can't cut 155 pounds anymore as well. So he decides, I'm going to try making 145. And that's unprecedented for this guy. He's getting a little older, but it was never really the biggest 155er. So he makes that cut down to 145. He looks atrocious. Worst fight of his career, probably. Loses to Frankie. And now, yes, it's hard to look good against Frank Yeager to begin with. He's Frank Yeager. But it was just a really flat performance all around. Now a lot of people are thinking, okay, BJ's done. Time for him to retire. He leaves. Now he's back again at 145 pounds. So this is going to be his second crack at 145. He's proven that he didn't look particularly good there the last time he was there. But at the end of the day, and this is always going to be the conversation, well, he's BJ Penn. What if he can find a little bit of that magic? But to that point, I would say, if I was to tell you, and I'm not going to be able to come up with great names at the top of my head, but let me say I said, okay, well, this quarterback retired from the NFL 3 years ago, right?
Okay.
Is he better than the college guy who hasn't really done anything yet?
I think it depends on who it is.
Well, the college guy's
And it
putting
depends
up
on how old
crazy
he is.
numbers. And in college, he's rushing the ball well and he's throwing the ball. Oh, man, he had 30 touchdowns this season. He had 9,000 yards of offense. Whatever the case is, these guys at the college level, they can put up spectacular numbers because there's nothing really, there's no barometer. There's nothing that you can compare it up against. A lot of them come to the NFL and then they just can't, they can't handle it. It's a different game altogether. With BJ Penn, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a guy that's retired. He's been to the highest part of the mountain, and guess what? He ain't there anymore. But if he's not all the way down at the bottom of the mountain, if he's still halfway through, if he's still half as good as the best that he's ever been, is that enough to beat this young kid?
Is he half as good as he used to be?
I'm going to have to say not likely. I mean,
When was the last time he won a fight?
last time he won a fight,
Was it against Matt Hughes?
Yeah, and it was 2010.
So it's been 7 years since he won a fight.
7 years since he won a fight.
So is this why you're leading your GPP team with Yair Rodriguez?
Yeah, there's a couple reasons there. The thing with BJ Penn, though, is that it's easy to say, well, when was the last time he won a fight? Well, 10 years ago. But he has looked okay in some performances, namely the John Fitch fight, namely maybe certain spots in the Nick Diaz fight. But when you look at the level of opposition that he's losing to, he lost to Rory McDonald and Nick Diaz.
Whatever happened to Rory McDonald?
Just signed with Bellator.
Okay.
But he's fantastic. Now, do you know what Rory McDonald and Nick Diaz have in common? They're 170 pounds, and they're the best, amongst the best welterweights on the planet. BJ Penn went the distance with both of them. Yair Rodriguez wouldn't last a single round against Rory McDonald or Nick Diaz, I would assume, because they're 3 times his size, right? So I really think there is some merit in BJ Penn. The thing is, when we're going to go with, as you mentioned, we're going to go with Yair Rodriguez to start off that GPP team. It's a 5-round fight, and this guy's got outstanding punch output, outstanding just offensive output in general. He's okay on the ground, although if he's on the ground with BJ Penn, I think that would be a world of hurt for him. So mostly he's got 25 minutes to deal with it, and it's punch output. If you look at this guy's, how much he generates per general fight at 84 points. Now, he's only actually has 1 of his 4 UFC fights as a finish. Generally, he goes all 3 rounds.
And he's still scoring that many points?
And he's still scoring that many points. So in his last fight, he had a 5-rounder. He went all 5 rounds. It was a 3-2 fight, so it was close. It wasn't like he was beating Bruce Leroy by a landslide victory. It was a close competitive fight. But he does enough to get the nod, rightfully so. He throws out a tremendous amount of output because it goes 25 minutes, and you really get the sense that this is a good, ever-improving young kid. With BJ Penn, the last time we've seen BJ Penn and we thought, wow, guy actually looks pretty good, was the first round against John Fitch because he came out reinvigorized. He came strong. He got the takedown. He got on top of him. He's working John Fitch for the first 5 minutes. Then, just like a lot of BJ Penn performances, rounds 2, rounds 3, he starts to get tired. He starts to fall apart, and the bigger man wins the day. He's not necessarily fighting the bigger man here, but in a 25-minute situation, it does not favor BJ Penn. It would favor the young kid. You remember how you were at 24? I'm sure you could have run all day. Now imagine you're 38 years old, you know? It's not that you're not in good shape, it's just that your body is naturally breaking down, and that's going to be tough for him. And the last point on that is, I've already used this on Bookie Beatdown, and BJ Penn's fought 4 times in his career, 25 minutes, right? He lost twice to Frankie Edgar. Both of them went 5 rounds. He lost to Jens Pulver in a fight that went 5 rounds. And he had a draw against a fighter named Kao Uno back in the early 2000s. That was a draw. He's never won a 5-round fight. So he essentially would need to finish Yair Rodriguez here or settle for going 25 minutes. And we know he doesn't excel in those situations. So when you're looking at a GPP team, Yair Rodriguez is expensive at $9,200, but he's not an atrocious amount of money. When you look at his 84 points scored on average, it's a high average. He's got 25 minutes to deal with. And if he does the things that he does well, he eats up BJ Penn. But even if it's a close competitive fight that goes 25 minutes,
he's still going to score points.
He's still going to score points. When you see this guy fight, Pat, he's foot on the gas the entire time. Maybe that'll hurt him at some point. Maybe it'll hurt him here. Just not likely. The reason why I didn't put him on a cash game team is because he's expensive, yes. But also, he's not the safest play in the world. He's a 5-1 favorite. He's by far the biggest favorite on the card. But don't think I didn't consider, can I work BJ Penn onto a GPP or a cash team, cash at $7,000, if I just get 50 points out of him?
If he goes the distance at the min price, then you're looking good.
Yeah, exactly. And will he go 25 minutes? Hopefully. But this guy is durable, man. If he's got anything at this point in his career, is that he's still extremely durable. Putting him away will be quite the task. And even if he loses, expect him to go later into the fight.
All right, rest of the GPP team, hit me up. What are the quick finishes here?
Oh boy. Okay, Joachim Christensen. I'd like for you to really look at his opponent, Bojan Mihalovic, and tell me what he averages per fight.
1.5 points.
1.5 points. He's fought in the UFC one time. He got absolutely obliterated. He's a Serbian fighter. Very average record at 10-4. And the thing is, he's 5'11", right? 5'11", fighting at heavyweight. His last opponent was about 6'4", 6'5", and rightfully so. Francis Ngannou killed him. Now he's like, oh man, got to drop down to 205, right? I'm fighting the UFC now. Guy's a little bigger. Gonna drop down to 205. You're still tiny for 205. Your opponent is 6'2". So what I'm getting at here is Bojan Mikhailovic is just not exactly the toughest guy out there. That's a lie. He's tough. He's very tough. But that's pretty much where it ends. He's not the most skilled guy. He's not particularly good striking. I noticed that in his physical MMA fights, he goes for this outside trip over and over and over again. And at the regional level, you can hit a guy with the outside trip. He's so much bigger than them for the most part, and he's 230 pounds, 5'11". He's like a little rock. Gets on them, chips away at them, he gets the wins. Now when you're fighting an elite level, you're screwed. When you look at Joachim Christensen's only fought once in the UFC, and yes, he lost. But if you look at this guy's record, and you see wins over guys like Anthony Ruiz and Jonas Bilstein, and Stefan Puetz, T800, giant German fighter who I'm very, very high up on. Joachim Christensen's able to go in there and he's able to beat all these guys. Beat Max Nunez by split decision. He's a tough guy. Black belt, 38 years old, which is very late to be making your UFC debut. But Pat, he strives on the ground. That's where he's best, right? Against higher echelon guys, they're going to be better than him because he's from Denmark. And a black belt in Denmark is not exactly a black belt in the US. Fortunately for him, he's fighting a guy who fights out of Serbia, does not have a belt in BJJ, and quite frankly just isn't all that good. So ground advantage, definitely going to Christensen. Now stand up. Christensen, he's in love with his striking these days. And whereas normally I'm like, well, that's going to get him killed pretty soon, he is making improvements. We've seen that in his last time against Frankenstein. He nailed him with a number of nice little punch combinations, but also dropped him with the right knee to the face. And it's like, wow, this guy is actually bringing it all together. 38 is old, but he's bringing it all together. He can beat lower tier guys or bottom of the barrel. What he's getting here is bottom of the barrel. I expect him to get the finish. $8,800 is expensive, but I just don't see Mikhailovic getting out of the second round, let's say. Hopefully it's first round, but I'll take first or second round. Give me Joachim Christensen.
Cyril Asker appears on both teams.
Yeah, Cyril Asker appears on both teams. He's $8,000. I tried to get away from him on the cash game team, but we needed some value plays on the cash game team. The thing with Cyril Asker is that he himself got absolutely blown out in his UFC debut.
Yeah, 6.5 average points.
6.5 average points.
Not very good.
And what he's known for is the ability to take a great beating and then just keep going. At only 240 pounds, 6'2", he's very mobile for a heavyweight. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I believe he's now a black belt in Taekwondo, and he's very apt and mobile. Thing is at 31 years old, this is likely the finished version of him. I don't know how much better he'll be getting. He comes into the UFC and takes on a man by the name of Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier is extremely fast, extremely explosive, and did catch him with that left hand. That puts him down. He's out. First time in his career he had ever been knocked out, so it's going to be interesting to see how he rebounds. Thing is, Dmitry Smolyakov, his opponent, Smolyakov is his power wrestler from Russia. And when he's fighting in Russia, Pat, he's 275 pounds. And then his next fight, he's 265 pounds. And then he makes his UFC debut and he's 255 pounds. And he's got no gas tank. None. Zero. Nilch. Nada. Not happening. So literally 3 minutes into the first round, he's cooked. And at the end of the first round, he's completely tired. Second round, his eyes swollen shut, and he quits on himself. He falls to the ground. He has many opportunities to at least try to fight back. He just accepts it. Finally, this Brazilian guy's like, I'm going to go hold of his neck real quick. And he's like, oh, man. He's like, oh, Smolyakov, what are you doing? Didn't have the gas. Now, I expect him to look better in this fight. And it is still risky because Cyril Asker, even though he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, he's going to be significantly smaller than Smolyakov. Smolyakov being the wrestler, if he gets the takedown, he's just going to control him. He's just going to stand on top of him and control him. That would kill me for 2 rounds. Thing is, that's worst case scenario. And worst case scenario is I'm down 2 rounds going into the third. Smolyakov's not even going to be able to stand by then. And Asker's going to have that gas. So the one thing you got to worry about Asker other than being held down is, will he get knocked out again? Smolyakov's not the guy to do it because quite frankly, he just is not really a pinpoint accurate striker. He throws a little front kick. He throws really stupid spinning attacks. And other than that, he more or less just throws stuff to try to close that distance. I don't see it working for him here unless it's just a quick flash knockout. So I think Asker survives the day and gets the win. Gets the win later into the fight. But for $8,000, they're heavyweights. And I'm going to take the heavyweight who I think is going to be able to have a better gas tank, get the win.
You got Marcin Held over Joe Lozon on both, too, at 7,700.
Yeah.
15 points per fight. You're really rolling out some winners here.
Yeah, and if you look at Joe Lozon's points per fight, And this is a guy that's fought in the UFC 20 times. in his career.
73 points per fight.
Huge.
Huge.
So I would assume most people are going to go with Joe Lozon over Marcin Held. I mean, Joe Lozon's not incredibly expensive. And when you look at it, you're like, oh my God, Joe Lozon, the guy's averages 70 plus points. Marcin Held, oh, this guy looked awful against Diego Sanchez. He lost a decision to Diego Sanchez. Oh, Joe Lozon? Joe Lozon knocked out Diego Sanchez in like 90 seconds. Oh, this is an easy money fight. I think most people will go Joe Lozon, and hey, I don't blame them. The thing with Marcin Held is I think stylistically speaking, this fight makes a lot of sense for him. His striking's super underrated, but just looking on a grappling aspect, where does Joe Lozon typically try to win his fights? On the ground. He's going to try to get you to the ground. He's going to try to submit you. If Marcin Held's cardio doesn't fail him the way it failed against Diego Sanchez, then he's going to be a lot more apt to stuff some takedowns, but also just to engage in ground striking exchanges with him. And where people say, dude, Marcin Held looked awful in his UFC debut. How could you get behind this guy? He was fighting in Mexico City in his UFC debut, which is a mile high in the sky, a mile plus high in the sky. So he gassed out, noticeably so. A lot of guys gas out. This is his UFC debut. He's from Poland. He had fought in Bellator. The jitters that you would experience, that nerve that you'd experience, the lights, the altitude, all that resulted in a terrible performance. And in a terrible performance, he still had a couple bright spots. He still nailed Sanchez with some decent shots. He still won that first round, but his cardio failed him. So let's give him 3 rounds of gas and see what he can do. And I think it's good enough to get the win over Joe Lozon. $7,700. He's very well priced, and I would have to put him on both. Last thing I would like to say about him is on a cash game team especially, if Marcin Held gets his ass kicked here, I still don't think he gets finished. And as you can see with the 15 points he scored against Sanchez in a fight that he couldn't muster up anything in the last 2 rounds, I think his basement against Joe Lozon might be 25, 30 points, which isn't the worst thing in a loss on a cash game. But
especially for your mid-price guy.
Let's not go with that loss. It'll be a nice big win for Marcin Held.
It would be. And I mean, if we get 25 points from anyone, we're out of the running in a GPP. We can't win.
Done.
Can't win anymore.
No.
So you have 2 more guys here. Chase Sherman's one of them at $7,500. Can he finish?
Chase Sherman can absolutely finish. Thing with Chase Sherman is that he's just had the one fight in the UFC. Prior to coming to the UFC, he's a big guy, big, strong, menacing. Trains at Alan Belcher's gym in Biloxi, Mississippi. Good, strong dude. And then Alex Nicholson hits him with a spinning back fist. The kid I had never seen coming, knocks him out. No big deal. Works his way back up, gets to the UFC, takes on Justin Ledet. Now, what I liked about him here, and this is a tough fight to pick, because against Ledet, Pat, he took a thrashing. Bad thrashing. But he took a thrashing at heavyweight. He went 15 minutes. He's getting hit with everything. He's getting punches that you would assume, okay, this guy's going to get knocked out. But he shows an incredible beard off. And people would say, well, he's been knocked out by Alex Nicholson. A spinning back fist that he never saw coming, right? Like, those, come on. Give him a break on that one. So let's just talk about his beard itself. Against Ledet, he's shown to have a great beard. And even though it appears that his nose is broken, and even though he's breathing out of his mouth because he can't breathe, and he's eating shots clean in the jaw, he's taking them, but he's attempting to rally back in the 3rd round. In the 3rd round, Justin Ledet is so tired from beating on this guy that Chase Sherman starts to kind of work his way back in ever so slightly. Now you're giving him an extended camp. You're giving him a full opportunity to come in here and really show what he's able to do, and I think that'll help him out. Now he gets Walt Harris. Now Walt Harris's thing is, he's normally the guy knocking you completely senseless early in the fight. The longer the fight goes, he himself completely falls apart. This one's really going to go either 2 ways. Walt Harris is
really quick finish, or
or
Walt Harris goes down late.
Walt Harris is either going to go in there and knock Chase Sherman out inside of 5 minutes, which is why you'd be like, gotta put Walt Harris in my GPP. However, Walt Harris is expensive.
I mean, you can make
right?
You can make multiple lineups too.
Course,
I mean, you can take Rodriguez off, put Walt Harris on, probably be fine.
Wouldn't be a bad selection. However, with Chase Sherman, $7,500, he's a great value pick, and I really see this one going as when you saw him at the weigh-ins, he looks so much better, right? He's looking in physical shape. I know that he's obviously taken the time to go back to the gym and refine some of his tools. Having a guy like Alan Belcher, who's, by the way, a massive individual now, he used to fight in the UFC at 185, is certainly a heavyweight himself now that he's retired. But just training with a good crew of guys over there and a good coaching staff, I'm sure he's getting better. And I'm sure when they look at this fight, and I've actually seen interviews with Chase Sherman makes mention of it, he's like, yeah, he's very athletic and he's a heavy hitter. And I those are the things that I've got to worry about. But it's like Walt Harris's UFC debut. He drops the guy in the 1st round, and then he completely fades out, loses 2 and 3, and just gets laid and prayed. His 2nd fight in the UFC, he got kicked in the head in 30 seconds and got KO'd by a guy who now fights at 205 pounds. His third fight in the UFC, he gasses out after 5 minutes, and this 40-year-old Australian guy punches him out. So the UFC's like, you're done, dude. You're out of here. You're 0-3. Gets cut. Wins one on the regional. They bring him back as a setup match for somebody else.
He beats him?
And he beats him. The first round knockout. The only thing he seemingly has in this world, Pat, the first round knockout. He beats Cody East. Now in his follow-up performance against Shamil Abdurakhimov, very middling talent, very average guy, but a good ground game. He doesn't even use his ground game. He just goes out there and outworks Walt Harris. And at the end of the third round, I remember watching that fight and being like, Walt Harris is going to lose this fight, and he doesn't even know it. Because he somehow thinks he's winning. So the fight ends, and then he's like, yeah! And then split decision for Abdurakhimov. You know, like, your ring IQ is low. His gas tank is not spectacular by any stretch of the imagination. And, you know, you can hit this guy and you can hurt this guy. I would say he's the favorite over Chase Sherman, yeah. But we're looking for DK teams. We're looking for a GPP and $7,500. Yeah, I'm going to take that risk.
And there's one thing that we've seen with the new DraftKings scoring as well, that it used to be like if you can get a first-round finish, like you were going to be the highest-scoring person of the night. Oh, yeah. Now, like if you can get like a second-round finish, like late in the second round, like you get some gravy points to add up there a little bit too. Then you get the decision points, and boom, you're looking a lot better. Like, it's not necessarily a first-round knockout that we need. It's just a finish. Second-round finish, I feel like, is the optimal thing you're looking for.
Yeah,
like, what was
Yeah, we had one the other day. The guy scored like 130 points, and it was all on takedowns. What was shit? I should. Anyways. But yeah, no, that's the thing. Takedown scoring you 5 points. The ground transition scoring you a lot more now. Submission attempts, all that stuff. Whereas you normally used to think, oh, this guy's
J-Chuck, is that her name?
Oh, Joanna J-Chuck. She doesn't go for no takedowns, but
but
punch output.
Yeah, but she had that 5-round fight against whoever.
Claudia.
Yeah, against, what was it, like a month ago, and she scored like 160 points.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's the thing. In the lighter weight classes, they're a lot faster, so you'll be able to rack up a lot of points. With heavyweights, you're never going to get that. You're going to get at the end of the day, 30 significant strikes landed, and guess what? And one of them hit him, and one of them knocked him out. Those lower weight classes, you'd be like, I landed 130 significant strikes. It's like, you hit him 130 times significantly, took them all. Yeah, and that is going to score you a lot of points. But that's why when you look at the main event with Yair Rodriguez, he's a speedster. He's fast. He's got a lot of punch output. First round knockout, that would be great. What would be better than that first round knockout is he absolutely piss pumps
just
BJ
kills
Penn
him for 5 rounds
over the course of 25 minutes. Now, the inner fan of me does not want to see that. But, hey, my DK team wouldn't mind, right?
Last person. Who is it?
Last person, on the cash game.
No, on GPP.
Okay, yeah. So GPP, as you mentioned, we got Yair Rodriguez, we got Joaquin Christensen. We're going to go with Cyril Asker because of his massive head, and hopefully he's able to withstand the beating and get the win. Marcin Held should pull it off. Chase Sherman. Now, $8,600. This is a GPP, keep you in mind. So we're going with Alexei Olenek. He might not have any kneecaps anymore. No ACL, no MCL. Those are gone. And he might be 39 years old. And he might be a former middleweight. But this guy finishes fights. And to that tune, he has 50 pro wins, something like 40 submission victories. He submitted some of the greatest guys in the sport, and he submitted complete bums as well. When he comes to the UFC, Pat, he goes right on an initial run where he's getting some middling, big, heavyweight guys who might not have the greatest of chins. Against Anthony Hamilton, he rocks this guy with strikes, takes him down, goes to his patented scarf hold, submitted Crow Cop with it. He will submit a lesser man. Anthony Hamilton is a lesser man. He's able to submit it with him. He also, I think that's the second fight. His first fight, I believe, was Jared Rochal, and he knocks him out. And this is a guy not known for his punching power at all. He knocks out a big guy like Jared Rochal. Doesn't have the greatest chin. But nonetheless, a couple nice little performances from him. Unfortunately, as I talked about him not having any knees, well, he decided to do this thing. It's called surgery on these non-existent knees. And that caused him to take nearly 2 years off. He returns to the UFC, and he looks okay against Daniel Malanchuk in the first round. Gets the takedown, throwing some hot hands. Looks in remotely good shape for a guy that probably can't run on the road anymore. But the second and the third round, he's cooked. He's so gassed. He hadn't fought in a while. He certainly is not able to do cardio with his current physical state. And he's 39 years old. Against a big, young, upcoming heavyweight like that, he just couldn't handle the fire. Now you look at him at the spot, he's taking on Victor Pesta. And Victor Pesta is only 26 years old. He's 6'3", 26 years old, seems to have a good gas tank. In many, many, many ways, Pesta's a bad matchup for Alexei Olenek. He is.
But Olenek can win in like 30 seconds?
Olenek can finish in 30 seconds. And not only that, Pesta's last fight, I'm sure he does not remember it because I was shocked that he's woken up from it. He took the nastiest head kick, the nastiest of the nasty head kicks, and it completely rendered him unconscious, right? Coming back from that, and this is a guy that's now been knocked out twice in his pro MMA career. Coming back from that, I don't know where his head's at. Not in that it's probably 3 inches over to the right, but I just don't know where he's feeling physically, right? He's a young guy, so you would have to assume he cleared the cobwebs. But also, is he confident? Does he still think I'm going to be the next UFC champion? Or does he think, oh, geez, this is not a spot that I
need
really
to win
want.
or I might get cut.
Right. And I'm drawing a blank at the top of my head, but Pesta was supposed to fight somebody else, I believe. And I think he's getting kind of a bit of a curveball in this on Alexei Olenek, right? And like I said with Olenek, he can finish everywhere. So if you're Victor Pesta, it's like, okay, when we look at Victor Pesta fights, where does Pesta do his best work? Well, he's working a lot on his kickboxing at the Black Stallions. Yeah, but his striking is not very refined. It's not very good, and he doesn't seem confident in it. To that tune, he got knocked down in his last fight against Marcin Tybura. But also, if you look at maybe the performance against Derek Lewis, he wants nothing to do with the striking. Why would you? But his striking's not looking good. Well, he's a ground specialist. We saw what he did against Konstantin Orokin. If he's a ground specialist and his game plan is to go in there and out-grapple Alexei Olenek, better get ready for the worst, man. You better get ready for the worst. And the last thing on there is Olenek's size, because he's a shorter guy. I think he's only 6'2", Pesta's 6'3". But when you see them up against each other, it's going to seem like it's at least 3 or 4 inches in height. Pesta's tall and skinny. He stands upright. Olenek is a little rock. Because he's a former middleweight, he's a smaller guy. He's a little rock. And as a result, if he pushes you up against the cage, he'll suck your hips out and he'll take you down. He took down Anthony Hamilton, who's a far better wrestler than Victor Pesta. So keep all that in mind. 8,600 is expensive, but for a GPP, you want to finish. This guy is a finishing machine. His nickname's the Boa Constructor. I'm sure you can imagine why.
Cash game team.
Cash game
we
team.
have 3 of the same guys here. We have Christensen, we have Asker, and we have Held. But you went with Drakkar Klose. Drakkar Noir.
Drakkar Klose. So with Drakkar Klose.
For UFC debut, I'm guessing that, or he had the worst fight ever where he scored 0 points.
Yeah, worse not. This is UFC debut. Yeah, and then luckily he's fighting Devin Powell, who's also making his UFC debut. So both guys average on that 0 points. Drakkar Klose is $200 cheaper, than Yair Rodriguez. That was one of the reasons I was able to fit him, because I decided to go with Ben Saunders and Sergio Pettis. But we'll get to that in a moment. Drakkar Klose is basically from this Phoenix area. He trains full-time out of Arizona at the MMA lab. Now, very young in his MMA career when you consider he's only 6-0-1, and he hasn't looked particularly good his last 2 fights. But when you physically watch tape of this guy, where are you going to beat him? You know, he's very good in every area. He's competent standing. He's pretty good on the ground. He's strong. He's physical. He's training with guys like Benson Henderson.
Benson Hedges? The cigarette man?
I used to think those were the best.
They are not the best. They are absolutely not the best.
I don't smoke, but like now that I've gotten
not
older,
anymore.
I'm like, not anymore. I'm like, Benson Hedges. Like, what?
They're the ones that they would sell in bars.
Still, you'd be like, I'm going to the States. Like, does anybody want anything? Someone would be like, oh, give me a carton of this. I'd be like, pick up some Newports. And you're like, I refuse to buy Newports.
I don't smoke menthols. Why would I want a pack of Newports?
Because they're cool.
They're not. Not cool. Disgusting.
Anyways, Drakkar Klose does not smoke. He's got a pretty good gas tank. Once again, what happens here with Devin Powell is that Devin Powell is from Maine. And they're just not, it's not the best MMA scene.
So what you're saying is that being from Maine in America is like being from New Brunswick or Manitoba in Canada. Just if you're from a loser province, you're probably just not going to win. Like you're from a loser state.
Ouch.
Like, oh, here's this guy from North Dakota. Yeah, he's probably not going to win.
All I'm saying is with everything, it goes by population. The more population, the more people that you're going to have that are going to be able to be stars. But also at the same time, the more training partners you would have. And the more money you have coming into your state or province. So yeah, like a state or a province like Ontario, there's money being funded into it. Maybe New Brunswick, not so much.
It'd be like if you lived in California.
But I mean, let's just look at all pro sports. Is there a lot of football players or baseball players or golfers coming out of Maine?
No.
No, because it's a small state. It's nothing to do with the talent level. It's just when you're producing far fewer people, it's just the way it's going to go. Now, in this case, Devin Powell fights out of Maine. Dana White is from the Massachusetts area. Apparently, back when he was a kid, he used to summer vacation in Maine. Now that he's extremely rich, he just owns some property in Maine. Pretty much. He has a little army tanks, and he's got a go-kart track.
It's him and Stephen King. That's it. That's all there is in Maine, I'm pretty sure. And Paul Correa.
So they go down. Paul Correa lives in Maine?
Paul Correa went to the University of Maine.
Okay, that makes more sense. On a scholarship. Basically, he's got some ties to Maine. So he goes and he visits Maine on the recent episode of Dana White looking for a fighter, right? Looking for a fight. Go down there, having a good time. As a result, because of the show, the way it's set up is that you go and you watch an MMA event in wherever town or city or state that you're in, and then you're probably going to grab a guy and you're going to put him on the UFC card. So they go to this fight in Maine. Devin Powell ends up having a fun fight. Perhaps not the greatest fight, definitely not the most technical fight, but a fun fight. Important to note here that his opponent was 5-5 at the time, John Lemke. John Lemke broke Devin Powell's nose. Devin Powell wins, gets up on the cage, blood going everywhere, points at Dana White, Matt Serra, and Dean Thomas. Yeah. They refix his nose backstage and they say, hey, we're going to offer you a UFC contract. Great, this is good times. First event of the year, we're going to put Devin Powell on there. His original opponent gets hurt. So now they're like, oh, we need someone for Devin Powell on relatively short notice. Is there someone local to the area? Well, the MMA lab's in Arizona. Do they have anybody? They're going to send you Dracker clothes. If you're asking for a 55er out of the MMA lab who wants to go right now, they're going to send you Dracker clothes because the kid's good. He's talented. I would love to see him get some more experience on the regional scene, but he's a very talented guy.
Well, let me ask you this then. Well, Devin Powell, $7,200. What are his chances here to win?
Well, that's the thing.
Like,
chances?
I didn't look at the odds. What are his odds?
Well, on the plus side of things, I don't know for sure, but if Dracker closes at minus 280.
Okay, so
I think he's a plus 225 or plus 230.
So he's not going to win this fight.
Not likely. Dude, he's just like he's a local tough guy who's now getting sent over to Arizona to fight the local Arizona tough guy.
Local Arizona tough guy that trains with, like, legit guys.
Trains with legit guys, has a far better team behind him, and also just Dracker closes undefeated for a reason, and he's fought some decent guys. He has the draw against Joshua Velas from the Tachi Palace Fights matchup, and he didn't look particularly good in that fight, but you're looking at a guy that has 35 fights that you're trying to fight, and you've got 5 fights of your own. So I feel like he's really grown since that draw. He goes to RFA, and it's not the greatest. I think Hugh Pulley is who he fought. It wasn't the greatest performance either, but once again, you're taking on a decent guy, and you're improving, and you're getting better. That time spent in the gym with Escudero and Benson Henderson and Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman and everybody else, that's all going to help you. Then when you look at this card, there's a number of MMA lab representatives, such as John Moraga and Jocelyn Jones-Leibarger, on the card. So he's got teammates on the card. His coaching staff's fired up. Everyone in the gym has been real fired up for Sunday, so we can go kick some ass in Phoenix. He's just part of that. And Devin Powell's the guy that was getting brought over to lose regardless, I would think. And I think Dracker Close is just going to step in and take the spot. 9,000, I want the quick finish. And with Powell, if he's got anything, he's tough. So it's not likely going to be
Has Powell ever fought this quality of opponent before?
No, but it's hard to judge what level Dracker Close is because he's only 6-0.
All right. Ben Saunders.
Ben Saunders, the Killer Bee, makes his return to the UFC hot off, I believe, a 17-second submission victory over former UFC veteran Jacob Volkman. We know this guy.
Was that in the UFC?
No, what happened was.
I was going to say, that's his 62.5 output. I feel like he'd have a whole. If he had that on the. And that's a part of the average. Like, he's lost.
He crapped the bed a couple other times.
He's lost every other fight ever.
He's been in the UFC for a long time, man. And then the thing with with Ben Saunders is you look at him and you're like, this guy's got some skills. He's going to go somewhere. And then he went, flat performance, flat performance, flat performance. Gets cut from the UFC, goes to Bellator. This guy is going to be so wheat in Bellator. Good performance. Yeah, Douglas Lima booted his head clean off his shoulders, man. It was like, oh! Douglas Lima is one of the best guys out there. So once again, you got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt. So with your Ben Saunders, eventually he works his way back to the UFC from Bellator. He asks for his Bellator release, and the UFC says, "Hey, you know what? Come on back." He goes and he submits Chris Heatherly with a go plata. So it was omoplata. Only omoplata victory in the history of the UFC.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
It'd be hard for me to describe to you, but it's basically a shoulder lock from jiu-jitsu. You go to rubber guard, which is something that he loves to do.
Is it on the ground or standing?
It's on the ground. And with Ben Saunders, he's very, very long. That's what he loves to do. He goes to this rubber guard, he locks you up.
Would you be able to apply it to someone?
The rubber guard?
Yeah. Or whatever you're talking about?
The omoplata for sure. The rubber guard I could. The thing is that you need a lot of flexibility and dexterity in your legs, so it tires you out. He's so long and flexible, he can hold you there all day. The regular guy can only hold you there for a little bit if they can do it at all. Now, the thing with rubber guard, Pat, is that there's no submission off of rubber guard. Now, I know what I'm saying. He submitted with the omoplata. That's a shoulder lock, but that's not from rubber guard itself. Rubber guard just holds you in place. So what these guys are starting to do, they're developing a game where I'll just hold you in place and smash you with elbows on my free arm.
Do each of those count as significant strikes?
You're goddamn right they do. And so it's like, oh, okay, this is a perfect idea. Just wrap the guy up and pound him. The problem is they're like, okay, let's see how good this works. And it doesn't work so bad. Now you get Kenny Robertson. Now he's a black belt too and pretty underrated on the ground. It don't work on Kenny Robertson. Okay, well, we'll give you Pat Cote. Ooh, Pat Cote's a black belt too. Don't work on Pat Cote. Now he's getting Court McGee. And Court McGee's never been submitted in his pro career. So it'd be hard to think that he's going to submit him. But Court McGee's definitely just slowing down. And this is all groundwork. Ben Saunders is also good stand-up. He's got good Muay Thai. I'm really worried about the single collar tie basically a hockey punch because he's been dropped by it before, and Court McGee will employ that tactic. It's going to be a close fight, but I think with Ben Saunders, he scores big when he wins. He goes out there and he gets these big wins. And what happened was that he had got cut from the UFC, but he wasn't supposed to get cut from the UFC, essentially. He lost, but he thought they were going to renegotiate his contract, and they just never did. They just allowed it to run out. So he takes a fight against Jacob Volkman on the regional scene and submits him in like 17 seconds. Then the UFC's like, wait, why is he fighting on the regional scene? Well, we never re-signed him. Well, then re-sign the guy. What are we doing here? So he's back in the UFC. He's motivated. He's 33. He's a little bit older. He's going to be, I think, 1 year older than Court McGee. And Court McGee is essentially, you know.
Court McGee any good? It's a terrible name.
He died. He died of a heroin overdose.
Oh, he's that guy.
Well, there's a couple of them.
How many guys have died from heroin overdoses and come back to life in the UFC?
Not specifically heroin. We've got 3 guys that have died and then come back. I believe Ian McCall died and came back. Matt Brown definitely died and came back. And I believe Court McGee as well. Court McGee had made a story. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. This is a long time ago. I want to say season 12 maybe. But anyways, a long time ago.
What season is it now?
24, 25. Court McGee was a long time. And to be perfectly honest, so at the time, me and my buddies, we'd get together and we'd watch the first episode and we'd all pick a guy that we really liked to win the show. And then everyone would say, okay, this is my guy, this is my guy. Everyone would have their own guy. And then if your guy goes and he wins the show, everyone would chip you, I think, $5 or something, right? That's added interest. So my brother's watching it. So he's like, oh, I like this Costa Philippou. It's like, of course you're going to take the guy who's going to win the show. Costa Philippou lost his fight to get into the house. So Justin's guy, J-Rock's guy's already done. So my buddy's like, you can have Court McGee. He goes, I don't want Court McGee. He goes, you take Court McGee. I think he's the last pick. And then my brother's like, no, Court McGee wins the show. He lost, and they brought him back, and then he won the show. So he's just like, he's always a little bit of an overachiever, but he has this line on the show, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, but in it, they're like, they have alcohol in the house, and they're like, oh, do you want to drink it? He's like, no, I can't drink. He goes, the last time I had a drink, the last thing I remember is I had a drink, and then I woke up 3 days later in a basement apartment in New Mexico, searching through the carpet for crack. And then, and they're just like,
that sounds like fun.
And they're just like, after one drink? And he was like, one drink. And it was just like, oh, okay. So he's a fan favorite. He's a really likable guy. He's blue collar. You can get behind him. Super friendly. Got entertaining skill set. But he doesn't have the most refined skill set. He's not particularly good wrestler. He's not particularly good on the ground. He can't particularly strike all that well. What he did have was a legendary chin. I mean, you're not going to knock the guy out. But Santiago Ponzinibbio proves that you can knock this guy out just like anybody. The right shot lands, it's going to put you down. He gets put down. In his follow-back against Dom Steele, he looked flat. He got hit a number of times, and he resulted on that wrestling. I thought he won. It was a really, really, really close fight. But, I mean, I thought he probably got the nod in there. Now when you match up against him against Ben Saunders, striking, Court McGee's too slow now. He just lost a little bit of that speed, and that speed was really crucial to him. He doesn't move his head, so he just plods forward. Ben Saunders throws a lot of kicks, a lot of knees. He'll go to that stand-up Muay Thai, clench you, beat you up as much as he can. He's got good striking. I am just worried that if you look at the Pat Cote fight, same thing. Ben Saunders ties him up with the Muay Thai clench, and the overhand right hits him, side of the head, and he buckles. Court McGee will land those same punches, so I'm a little bit worried there. But I just mean, standing, Ben Saunders has got a lot of output. So on the ground, he's got a lot of output.
When you
should be able to get this win.
When you look at all the skills that each of them have, and you do a checklist, just so many fall on Ben Saunders, except for the fact that
so many of them fall on Ben Saunders.
There's a few with Court McGee that he could just win.
And
is Court McGee like a reasonable GPP play then? Like if he wins, would he win early?
It's possible,
but not.
Yeah, I would say no personally because he's not a power puncher.
Okay.
If you look at traditionally in his career, he really relies on just breaking guys down and wearing them down. Ben Saunders, I've seen him get broken down before. But also, if you look at his performance against Kenny Robertson, he takes as much as he can get, but he gives it back as well. It's a good performance. He wins a split, controversial, but it's a good fight out of him. If he can have a similar performance like that here, he should be able to get the win. Court McGee, certainly the guy's seen better days. But as you mentioned, if I was to have a checklist of 5 things, I put everything on Ben Saunders' case but one thing. And because this is MMA, your chin is a big thing. Court McGee has been knocked out the one time, but still he has a significantly better chin than Ben Saunders. So if this turns into a firefight, most Court McGee's fights end up being firefights, then there's a great possibility he clips him and puts him down. That's why Saunders is not he's not the safest pick in the world. And I did put him on my cash game team, but $8,400, I have to make that play. I have to fade out a guy that I do really respect in Court McGee, and I respect all of his accomplishments. But at 32 years old, he might as well be 42 years old because his body's breaking down.
Sergio Pettis rounds out the team.
Yeah. Never thought that would ever happen. Sergio Pettis is such a write-off to me, man. Done. Over. Don't like him. However, got a couple things going for him here. One, it's a cash game team. Second of all, $8,100. Man, that's pretty cheap. He's getting ready full-time for this fight, getting ready to take on a far superior fighter than himself in UCR Formiga. Formiga gets hurt, and that's a big, high-profile fight. There's no doubt in my mind this kid was training his ass off for that fight because you have to take it seriously. Formiga's out of the fight, and now they're like, same thing. We need someone short notice. Well, what's the local gym in Phoenix? The Lab. Do they got anybody at 25 that'll take this on short notice? Moraga. John Moraga's taking this fight on short notice. The thing with Moraga is that his last time out, he took on a fighter by the name of Matus Nicolau. He was a 2-1 favorite over Matus Nicolau. He was making his UFC debut. Matus Nicolau goes out there and just outworked him. Got a win. Took a split decision over him. Tested positive for steroids afterwards. But had a good little solid win over John Moraga. And the thing with John Moraga is that he's actually very short. So whereas guys that are that small and have the wrestling pedigree that he has, close the distance, get a hold of him, rip him to the ground, work him. You've got good submissions. You've got some decent ground and pound. You've got good ground control. Use your wrestling more. The thing with Moraga is that he chooses to hang out all the way on the outside and then try to close the distance and throw strikes. That's not going to work, and it's not going to work against a striker like Sergio Pettis. So Moraga just needs a takedown. Get the takedown. You'll smash this kid up. I just don't know that he's got the type of game plan that's smart enough to just be like ground him over and over. Because when you're a tough guy and you're fighting for the fans, you don't want a boring performance. And sometimes a boring performance is what you need to do to get the win. But you don't care about that. I'm not here to get booed. I'm in Phoenix. I'm from Phoenix. Let's do this. So you start throwing punches and you think you're winning and you're not. He could clip Sergio Pettis, sure, but Sergio Pettis is going to be a little quicker, a little more refined standing. I think that the fight largely takes place standing. Sergio Pettis is not going to finish John Moraga. Let's get that straight right now. He will go to 3 rounds. But can he get a close decision over John Moraga in that? Yes. Now, they're both the same price. So if you're feeling Moraga, go Moraga. But I want the guy with the full camp.
Okay. Those are the two teams. Any more fights here? Any, just ones you're not, have a bad grasp on either way?
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of fights in that regard. When you really look
that
at
could
this,
potentially end in knockouts.
Well, I had Tony Martin, right? Tony Martin's taking on Alex White. Alex White's moving up to 155 pounds. And though he has not died of a heroin overdose, he one time lost his voice for drinking gasoline as a child. He's just a...
What?
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Alex White.
I don't see Alex White on here.
You should. He's third at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, okay. So he's way down there.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you're going for a GPP or something, Alex White is a tough son of a bitch, man. He marches forward the whole time. He's not exactly the most technical guy. But if there's any one knock on Tony Martin is that he's not related to Ricky, but also he not a pretty boy fighter. Just you can break this guy. You can go in there. You can take his will. You can put some hard shots on him. His last fight against Felipe Oliveri, it was a good performance. He got a 3rd round finish, but it wasn't a spectacular performance. When you look at Alex White, he comes from a boxing background, has an amateur boxing pedigree, spent some time with American Top Team, surrounds himself with good fighters, and he's got a great chin. He's got some decent wrestling, ability to stay out of submissions. Can he get the win? I think he can get the win. But if you're looking for who's a guy that might be able to go there and get the finish, Tony Martin's jiu-jitsu is legit. He should be able to maybe catch a guy like Alex White. Walt Harris, if you're looking to go the other side of that heavyweight matchup, he's obviously got a lot of power. Really like this Frankie Science fight versus Taquinho Mendez. The thing with Mendez is that he's a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner, won world titles. He's 33 years old. He's not exactly the greatest MMA fighter. Science is a wrestler. So there's no way Science is looking to take this guy down, and there's no way Mendez is going to be able to take down Science. So you're going to have 2 ground guys essentially throwing punches. Should be interesting, but I see it going the distance. Nina Ansaroff, I wanted her on a cash game team. She throws way too little punch output. Can't get behind that. Although she averages almost 37 points and 2 losses in the UFC. She's lost both of her fights by decision. She's still averaging 37 points. So in a victory, she might get as much as 70 points.
Do you think she's going to win?
Yeah, I think she's got a good chance to win. Jocelyn Jones-Lybarger, another girl from Phoenix, trains at the MMA lab, is...
bad?
No, she's not bad. It's just she plods forward. She's very, very, very slow. She moves her head okay, but she just plods forward.
Will she knock her out, or is she going to the distance?
Well, Nina Ansaroff had 5 straight finish victories prior to getting signed to the UFC. So now you're getting signed to the UFC, you got to fight tougher girls. When you're fighting tougher girls, those finishes don't materialize. But one thing that's going Nina Ansaroff's way is that her girlfriend just knocked out Ronda Rousey. So Nina Ansaroff is very good. She trains at American Top Team. She surrounds herself with some of the best women in the world. And I feel like when you have Amanda Nunes win the world title, defend the world title, and then say, hey, everyone, my girlfriend Nina Ansaroff is going to be the future 115-pound champion, people take notice of that. Now there's a lot of pressure on Ansaroff. She just kind of put the spotlight on me. Geez, not this many people normally request interviews fight week, but now you're becoming a bit of more of a star because your partner's a star. Great. All that spotlight on her, how's she going to perform? If she performs well, she's going to score well. I really wanted her on cash game, not GPP. I wanted her on cash game. Ultimately, I don't really think that what happened was that she's 8,100, and I switched her for Pettis. That's exactly what happened. I switched her for
So you
Pettis.
prefer Pettis. It didn't seem like you were all that high on Pettis.
Well, the thing with Pettis here is if you look at how much he's averaging at 65 points, and that's
He wins fights, though, doesn't he?
he's winning the fight. Right. Yeah, well, he's won his last 2 fights.
All right, so
he's
that-
4-2 in the UFC.
So just give him the decision bonus, and that's where the 62 comes in. She hasn't won a fight. That's why she has no decision bonus.
No, well, right, but she's also 0-2 in the UFC, whereas Sergio Pettis is 4-2 in the UFC. So I'm looking at a cash game, right? When I'm looking at a cash game, I'm looking for who's safe. The girl who's never won a single fight in the UFC in 2 outings, or the guy that's won 4 of his 6 fights, has won 2 in a row. His big brother is Anthony Pettis, the former world champion, trains at Duke Roos's and Greg Jackson's. Everything's going for him. However, now that we're talking about it, maybe I want Ansaroff back, right? I don't know. This is why you got to field more than one team.
Yeah, it's tough with cash teams, though. I like to keep the one
course,
cash team. The thing is, I'm going to put up this graphic. I'm going to end up in like a 20-person cash tournament, 50-50, and like 8 people are going to have the same team. Maybe I'll just take Pettis off, put on Ansaroff.
Not a bad move.
That's how I'll distinguish my team from everyone else's. Then I'll watch Pettis win in like 30 seconds, and my team will lose.
Oh, see, that's the other thing, right? If you talk to anybody and you're like, hey, what do you think of Sergio Pettis? Oh, yeah, Sergio, busted prospect. Oh, Anthony Pettis, little bro. How the Pettis brother? You just hear a bunch of stupid stuff, right? Talented kid. When you hear, what do you think about Nina Ansaroff? Oh, she's dating Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes says she's going to be the champ.
You think she'll be more popular?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think.
Okay, then I'll stick to Pettis.
And then the fight will start, and you'll see the owned, and you'll be like, "What the hell?" That's the thing. It's all over the place. One favor I have to ask from you though is Alexei Olenek.
Yep.
Okay. They're spelling his name wrong on DraftKings. They've spelt it wrong on UFC.com. That's not how you spell his name.
It's with an O, not an A?
Yeah, but even just, I spelled it right on our sheet, but it's Oleksiy. His last name is Oliynyk. Now, I've seen that he has a Russianized version of his name because he's Ukrainian. And the Russianized version still isn't the same as the one the UFC puts out. There's no A. It's always a O. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter.
That's weird.
I don't know what it is, but when I saw them spelling it like that, I was like, oh, of course, Russian guys. They're like, oh, I'm not Alexei Olenek. That's Alexei Olenek. But it's like, no, he's not even hiding from anybody. I'm pretty sure he lives in New Jersey now, like most Russian people.
Really?
Yeah, something like 1 million Russians in that area, which is great, man.
I used to live in New Jersey.
That's right.
I am not Russian, though.
Wow, that's why you're not in New Jersey anymore, bud.
Yeah, I got ran out by the Soviets.
You got ran
by the
out.
Reds.
You got ran out. Better red than dead, by the way.
That's going to do it. We actually went on so long, I'm going to cut this up into 2 shows. One will be released. It's a bit more evergreeny. Those are the picks for UFC Phoenix. I'm Pat Mayo. Remember to follow Cody on Twitter at CJ Saftic and follow the Bookie Beatdown at Bookie_Beatdown. And follow me at the PME. Good luck this weekend. I'll see you next time.